Darius Rucker, welcome back to Biscuits and Jam.
How you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm great. Last time you were on this podcast was a few years ago. Might have even been during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. That's a long time ago right there. That seems like 10 years, man.
I know. Well, it's great to see you again. And congrats on your Gamecocks. I'm sure you're excited about that.
Very, very. That was the first national championship game I actually got to go to. I had a show the other two times we played, and yeah, that was great. I'm never missing another one, man. I'll tell you that much.
That's so cool. Well, it's a great thing for South Carolina, and what a story. Well, Darius, congrats on the new book. It's called Life's Too Short. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, for sure.
What made you feel like it was time to write a memoir?
You know, they've been asking me to write a book for years. I've had several different publishing companies come up to me, and Harper came up to me, and we talked about it. And I always said that if I ever wrote the book, I was going to be really honest, and I wasn't going to write it until my kids were adults. And we went around, and my kids are adults now, and I just felt like, and I met Alan, who I wrote it with, and just felt like it was time to tell the story.
Well, you really put it out there, and I think you said on social media somewhere that people were going to be surprised by some of the things in this book, and that is probably very true. I don't think most folks have any idea what a bumpy ride it's been.
No, because, I mean, it looks so smooth. It looks like, I started this band in college and we got a record deal and went big, and then I came to country music and, made it there, and it looks like just a smooth ride. But there were so many ups and downs, so many pitfalls, so many pits, so many holes, so many potholes, so many whatever you want to say that went on in my life starting from when I was born that, I just wanted to tell the story so people could know it. Not, I think that the one thing that I love so much about the book is, the one thing that I want people to get is that I never make excuses. This is just what happened.
Well, you're kind of lucky to be alive.
Yeah. For a couple reasons, I'm pretty lucky to be alive. That opening paragraph, the opening chapter about, hanging out with Hootie, and also the chapter about how hard we went and how hard we partied. Those chapters, you really look at it, I am lucky to be on the other side.
Yeah. Well, as someone who kind of watched your career for a long time, I kind of feel like we grew up together in a way. I graduated from college in the early 90s, and
yeah.
Your music was just everywhere. It's just kind of, part of my soundtrack. But I didn't realize how big a role David Letterman played in kind of getting you out there. What a cool story that he was listening in the car one day and heard your song and said, I want these guys on the show.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we look at life, and like that's one of those lucky moments that changed lives. Like, some guy at a radio station who's a DJ who's been there a long time decides, I heard this song, we're not adding it, but I'm gonna just play it at drive time. Who does that? I mean, nobody does that today, and he likes the song and no permission from the program director or anything. He's like, I'm just play this song. Y'all tell me what you think about it. And he plays Hold My Hand, and that's the first time it's played on that radio station, and Letterman hears it. And he loves it instantly. And that's a Tuesday, and on Friday we're on the show. And that changed our lives. I say to people all the time, if it wasn't for, I'm not here if that doesn't happen. We don't make it, I don't think, if that doesn't happen. Because grunge was so big. It was such a thing, and nobody was dying to play us. And then Letterman happens, and everybody's dying to play us.
Wow. What a story. Well, here we are. And, you put so much into this book, and you wrote about a lot of really hard things, too. Losing your mom and your brother and being alienated from your dad, and a lot of drug and alcohol abuse and all kinds of stuff. And I'm wondering, what was the hardest thing to write about, or what were some of the hardest things to write about going through this process?
Writing about my dad was hard because I didn't realize how much it affected me until I wrote this book. Because you live your life and you just go on with it. Whatever happens, you take it. And, after a while, this stuff, if something bad's been out of your life for long enough, you just don't think about it anymore. And that's how it was with him. I just don't think about him. And then I wrote this book, and it made me go write a song. It was just like, man, I didn't realize how much it really affected me that he wasn't there. And writing that was hard. Writing about the partying was hard. Writing the stuff about my brother, that was stuff I went around. Am I really going to put that in the book? Should I take that out? Is that? But then I remembered what I said to myself. I was going to tell the truth, and so I left it in there.
Do you feel some kind of catharsis? Putting this down on paper, putting it out in the world, just kind of telling the story?
Oh yeah, this was so therapeutic for me. There's so much stuff that happened in the book that now I talk to, with my guy, because I didn't even think about it for years. And this is something that's probably affected me in a way or a lot of ways, so let's talk about that. And it was such a good therapy for me to write that and read it back. And then when I was reading the audiobook, it was even more, like that. So yeah, I'm really glad I did it for that reason.
Mm-hmm. So much of this book is about Hootie and the Blowfish, of course, and the bonds that you had with these guys, which was, basically a bunch of college friends from the University of South Carolina. But they were really so much more than that. I mean, they were brothers.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they will be surprised or were surprised by anything in this book.
Oh no, there's nothing. It was like when I read Sony's book. It was out there, but there was nothing that surprised me. We all lived it together, and I mean, until the late '90s, early 2000s, we were together every day. We were always together. We were together when we were off. We were just always together, and so there's nothing that's going to surprise anybody in this book. Not anybody who did the Blowfish.
One thing that surprised me a little bit, or I didn't really know this story, was about your history working in the record store for a long time. And it was called Sounds Familiar, which is a great name for a record store. And it sounds like it was a really seminal place for you. I mean, you kind of would come back there and, even when you're not making music, when you're not writing music, you're surrounded by music.
Yeah.
What did that place kind of look and feel like, and why was it important to you?
Oh, it was the record store life was amazing. You heard everything. Like, the one thing I think people are going to get from the book is how important music is to me. And for me to work at a record store and, like you said, be surrounded by music, and then on the weekends go out and play shows where I'm surrounded by music was just like heaven. I'm getting paid from two places to go play music, and it was just or go listen to music. And it was just really awesome, and some of the best years of my life was working at Sounds Familiar. I made good friends, and I had a great time, and I loved that job so much.
So paint a picture for me of that store. I mean, what does it look like when you walk in? Is it kind of vintage looking? Is it more modern looking?
Well, it was modern for the 90s. I mean, modern for the 80s, 88, 89. It was modern for then. But, you walk in the two glass doors, the counters right there, and then it's just records everywhere, in different sections, jazz and rock and hip hop. Well, I guess one hip hop, there was rap back then, and all just different areas, and it was awesome. It was so many times I walked in that store and somebody was playing something that became my favorite album. And I would have never put it on myself, but somebody else put it on. I go, wow, that is great. Like, I would have never discovered Nancy Griffith if somebody wasn't playing it when I walked in one day. And then that changed my life.
I love that if there were two copies of a record there, then you could listen to one, put it on. But if there was only one copy, you couldn't open it. You had to actually buy it.
You had to buy it, yes. You had to buy it. And that was a great rule. And because a lot of times if you bought something, you opened it, you played it, somebody else would want to buy it, so you'd have to order it.
Right.
Which was cool. And so, that was some of the great days of my life. I love working at that store.
Darius, you talk about a lot of musical heroes in this book. I mean, Lou Reed and R.E.M. and Nancy Griffith you just mentioned. And I want to ask you about one in particular, which is Al Green. You were obsessed with him as a kid, and then you ended up getting to perform with him at this awards show. I think it was maybe the Billboard Music Awards, and he was singing one of your songs. which is kind of incredible. What did that moment mean to you?
That was probably at that point the moment where I said, we made it. That was the point when Al walked on it. I will never forget that night. Al walked on that stage because rehearsals were rehearsals. Nobody's really, we're playing, but you're not playing. And when we hit that bass line and he walked out on that stage and started singing, it was out of body experience. It was so amazing, and he is my idol. He's the number one. He's the guy. He's the reason I wanted to sing. He's the reason I wanted to be in music. And to have gotten to be on the stage with him is still one of the great moments of my life.
Mm. Well, I'm from Memphis, and I've seen him in his church.
Yeah.
There's nobody. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that can perform like he can.
No. I've seen him in concert a couple times. Nobody sings like Al.
So, Darius, moving to the present, there is a new album that just came out called Cowboy Carter that you may have heard of, and it spawned a lot of conversations about black artists and country music. What does it mean to you to see Beyonce coming out with this record right now?
Oh, I love it. I think it's another thing that shows that there's a lot of people of color in this country that love country music. They're just usually not allowed to. And for her to come out with a record like that, which is so great, and to bring all this attention to the genre and everything she's done for it, I think is great. I think it's awesome. It's awesome. I hope, when I came here 16 years ago, there wasn't anybody that looked like me in the business. And over the 16 years, I've managed to see Kane and Willie Jones and Warren Treaty and all these bands and artists starting to get looked at and getting deals and stuff, and it's great. And I hope what she does makes it even better. I hope, I say it all the time, I love to see country music looking more like America.
What do you feel like it'll take for Beyonce to be really welcomed by the country music community, or do you feel like that's already
I think she's already got that. But I think to be a part of the community, you got to make more than one country record.
Right.
That's the one thing that I think is disliked by country music, the community a lot, is what they call carpetbaggers, guys who come from pop, make one record, and then go back to pop and pretend like country doesn't exist. But what she did, she made an amazing record. It's going to probably win record of the year and all that stuff. That it's going to be a great moment for her in country music. But to be a part of the community, you got to come here and play. You got to be a part of it.
Yeah, take some time.
Yeah.
Well, Darius, when you came out with your first country song, which I think was 16 years ago, which is kind of incredible.
Crazy. That's crazy.
So it was called Don't Think I Don't Think About It. And it went to number one, right?
It did. Yes.
So this was the first time that had happened for a black artist since Charlie Pride.
25 years.
And I'm wondering if y'all talked about that after that happened, or if he reached out to you.
Absolutely. Charlie and I became really good friends. Our first meeting was at the Opry, where we both got there like 2 hours early and just sat and talked for hours. And then we would talk after that every time we saw each other on the phone or whatever, and we just became really good friends. And it was at that time when we were the only two people that had done it. And so it was great to talk to him and have the insight that he had and all the things he did and all of the things he went through. Because one thing I said before I met Charlie, when I first came to Nashville, I said, I've heard some of the stories of what Charlie had to go through. There's nothing y'all can do to me to make me quit. If Charlie can go through that crap, there's nothing y'all can do to me to make me quit. And I told him that, that was something that he loved that. He respected that. He loved that. And we became really good friends, and he was just my mentor. He was always there for me anytime I wanted to ask him anything.
What was there a story that stood out to you that he went through? Something that is really kind of stuck in your mind.
It probably hasn't. It's probably not what you think I would tell you, but there is something that when he said it, it punched me in the throat. And him and I talked about this for probably 45 minutes. Charlie Pride had an amazing career. To do what he did in country music when he did it, it was amazing. Hootie the Blowfish was the biggest thing on the planet at one minute. We were big. And he said to me, Darius, I've done all this stuff in music. And you got to realize, growing up, when you grew up African American, and I know everybody that I know grew up in my area, when you went to the barbershop, there was an ebony and a jet, and you read it every time you went to the barbershop, every time. And he said to me, he's like, I've done all this in music and I've done all this, and I've never been on the cover of Ebony and Jet. And I looked at him and I said, me neither. And that just stuck with me because that said to me, not only do we have to fight, the white racists over here telling us we shouldn't be playing country music, we also have to fight the black folks telling us we shouldn't be playing country music. And to have gone out and put ourselves where we put ourselves out there the way we did, and to have the success that we have had, for not one person to go, I'm going to write a story about this and put it on the cover of this magazine, was that's pretty hurtful. That hurt us both, I think.
Yeah, you're really kind of alone out
both.
there. Yeah,
that really hurt us both. And when he said that was such a punch to the gut because, like, me neither. That's something I've thought about. Never even got. I think I've been in it once. That really stuck out to me.
Darius, I want to just ask you about your most recent album, Carolyn's Boy, which came out about, I think, 6 months ago or so, and it was named after your mom, who died before she ever got to really see your success. What's the story with the photo on the cover?
I love that picture so much. It's my family's favorite picture of her. Everybody's got it. And that was her at 25 graduating nursing school. That was her nursing school graduation picture.
I got it right here.
Yep, that's her nursing school graduation picture. She looks just like my sister right there. It's scary, yeah. But, that's just a picture we've had, and I wanted that to be the cover.
Well, I love that you did this as a tribute to her, and I'm sure she would have loved it too. And
she would have.
You talked in the book about how she had this great singing voice, and you thought of her as the fourth supreme because she was always singing along with their music. I love that story.
Yeah, she was. I mean, Mama was special. I mean, that's why I think that's one of the things that always kept me so humble about my voice. Was my mom and my dad were both better singers than I were. They were both just stupidly great singers. And so anytime I get a little big head, I remind myself, you don't sound like your mama, though. So that's easy to do for me.
There's a beautiful scene in the book where you talk about hanging out with your mom for a whole day. Like, I think it was just a few days before she died.
Yeah.
Was that unusual for her to call you and want to drive over to Columbia to hang out?
To say that was unusual would be an understatement. She had never done it. I'd been living in Columbia for 5 years at this point. And the only time I saw her was when I went home. She had never once said, I'm going to come see you. And just out of the blue, she said, I'm going to come see you. It's like, if you believe in this stuff, and it's like fate. It's like God saying, look, you need to go handle what you need to handle. And she came and she saw me, and it was one of the greatest days of my life. And I got to say everything to her I ever wanted to say. And that was special to me.
Well, so many people don't ever get that opportunity, and
Exactly.
The fact that y'all got that time together, and it's really kind of gives you chills thinking about it.
It was great.
So, Darius, we talked about how you wrote about some tough stuff in this book, but you've also got some tough stuff that you deal with on this album, and there's some really fun songs on the album like Beers and Sunshine, and then there's also some, much more personal ones, and there's one on there called Never Been Over.
Yeah.
That's about splitting up with your wife of 20 years. And, I'm just wondering if all of this kind of together is a little bit of a process of working through some difficult things.
I really think it is. And I didn't think it was when I started doing any of this. But I think writing the book and that record and all this and the stuff I'm writing now is just a way of finally, I think writing the book made me deal with stuff that I was just forgetting about or pretending that wasn't there because I just wasn't thinking about it. And now you write a book about it, it comes back up, and you have to deal with it. And I think that's a lot of stuff I'm going through right now in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another song on the album called Old Church Hymn, which you recorded with Chapel Hart. And, I've had them on the podcast and met them, and they're just, wonderful and fun and so great. And I'm just wondering how that one came together.
That was a great one. We cut that song, and I went home from the studio. Russ and I cut the song, went home from the studio, and I was just flipping through Twitter, and it was just somebody had retweeted this video of them when they were singing, I think, Jolene. And I look at that, I go, what? You know, and I listened to it a few times, and I'm like, this is crazy. And so I text Ross, I think I know who I want to sing background on Old Church Hymn. And so I hit them up in their DMs. I DM'd them. And I was like, you know, this is Darius Rucker. I got this song.
Really? They must have freaked out.
Oh, they didn't believe it was me. They thought it was a joke. They thought it was like, yeah, right. No, I guess the Blue Jackets, Darius Rucker. You know, I'd love for you guys to come sing on my. And so we exchanged numbers, and I got in touch with them, and you know, they came and sang on it, and we've been best buddies ever since. I love those girls so much. They're awesome.
That's great. Well, it's a great album, and it seems like you had a lot of fun making it. And
I did. Thank you.
But I love that song.
Oh, me too.
Well, so Darius, I mean, you know, here you are now, you know, kind of coming full circle, and you've got a, you know, big summer tour coming up with Hootie and the Blowfish. Why did it feel like the right time to get back on the road with these guys?
30th anniversary of Cracked Review. You know, it just seemed like the year to do it. 30 years ago, we put that record out, and all of our lives changed. So this seemed like the time to go out and play a bunch of songs from it and go out and do the Hootie thing again.
Have you been rehearsing already?
God, no. We rehearsed like 2 days before we did it. I'll be honest with you. Actually, they've rehearsed a little bit, but not much. Just to figure out what the set list is going to be. So, but we'll rehearse before we go out.
Have you finally persuaded them to perform a few country songs?
Yeah, it's too late for them now. No, we do a couple of my hits in the show. Yeah.
Well, Darius, I just have one more question for you.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to be Southern?
Southern to me means somebody who goes out of their way to be nice, who really cares about things other than themselves, and who patience, who has the patience of a saint. That's a Southerner to me.
Well, that sums it up, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That's a good way to look at it. Well, Darius, congrats on the book and the album and the tour and everything that's coming up. And thanks so much for coming back on Biscuits and Jam.
Thanks a lot, Sid.